this video from Imagine Landscapes, we're going to be talking about attaching the arms to this particular gnome, the O-gnome, or not the O-gnome, the gnome is where you hang your hat gnome. So we've got our body and some cat hair apparently. And you might be wondering, well, how do I tell which is the back and which is the front? So we do have a little bit of an indication on the back hat in terms of there will be a slight seam along the color work, even though we worked really hard to avoid that with the slipping the stitches and everything. It's still going to show a little bit. So that's one way. But the easiest way is that the back of the body doesn't have the ear flaps. So if you look, the ear flaps, I look on this half, they're visible. This half, pretty hard to see. This half, look at the ear flaps. Yeah, we did that whole hat is imbalanced for a reason. On a human head, it's actually the opposite. The bit with the forehead is the part that has the long hat. And my tech editor, or like not the short gap. On a human, we would wear this side. This would be our forehead. But gnome is not a human, and we're not trying to actually keep ears warm. We're trying to have beautiful ear flaps show at the front. So that's why we knit this way. My tech editor had to be like, that's not how it's done. And I'm like, yeah, but gnome anatomy, you know, it's different. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be attaching them here behind the ear flaps, because again, we want the ear flaps to be at the front. So the pattern says, attach arms behind ear flaps, 5th row of the body. So this is behind the ear flap. And if we look way up here, let's count our rows. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there I am. So I'm not quite halfway down, and I'm definitely too close to the ear flap for this. So I'm just gonna move back a little, but this is the main thing, to know that the 5th row is about here. In other words, the way I've knit my tension and all of that stuff, it's right below the garter brim on mine. We don't want the garter brim trying to flip up. So in that row, somewhere around here, I'm just gonna bring my yarn through and let's see what that looks like. So if we were to do this, I think that's too far back. So now we will undo that and we will move 1 stitch forward and do it again. All right, so we tried that stitch last time. I can see because it's kind of larger and puffy. So we'll try this one now. There we go. Okay, I've got my tail way too short on that needle. Let's get that through. All right, so when I see that, that looks about right. It looks about like it's gonna sit behind the ear flap and be comfy cozy. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of figure 8 our way around the gnome arm, especially if you were gonna give this to kids. So we would go through, so we're coming up on the left side, so we'll go down through, back through that stitch we went through in the first place, at least one leg of it. So that's sort of creating the first half of the figure 8, right? Because we've come this way. Now we will go and we will snag part of a stitch and go up through the arm and go this way. So now we're coming back down and around. This just sort of helps set the gnome. You can go through it sort of all in the same direction, or you could come down from the top. I find that bracing it from both sides just makes it a little more stable. And I know that a lot of you like to give these away as toys, and so I'm always worried about arms coming off. So yeah, that's about right. It's getting a little high into that brim, but I don't think it's going to be too bad. So I will just do that a couple more times and then we will knot this. So let's just secure it a little bit better, and hopefully my end will stop coming off all the time. So I think here I'm going to come around. I'm going to figure out where my stitch is. All right, so I'm going to go grab some of that right under the armpit there. Once I've got that, I'm just going to come up through the arm. You may have noticed that I kind of placed it so that the curve of the arm was towards the front. That's just habit. I do that all the time from all my other patterns, and I didn't even think to talk about it this time, so I'm sorry about that. And so now I'm gonna just brace that. That's 4 times, 2 each side. That's gonna feel nice and secure. So now I just plunge through to the other side of the gnome arm, and you have 2 choices. You can sort of loop it and knot it on the arm and then feed it back through the arm and snip it, or you can loop and tie it and then feed it through the body. I'm going to use the arm this time, just because I think the last few videos I've done about gnome arms, I have always made sure to go into the body. But so we'll just do something a little different, get that knot nice and snug. Then we'll just thread the yarn needle through the center of the I-cord, making sure not to like come up and actually leave stitches that would be visible. Oh, look at that, I lost my end again. This is the video of you watching me redo this. All right, so now we do this, and up we go. And there we are. Pull this tight, snip, and it'll just go away. Okay, so then we'll do the second arm, and we are ready for the next step. So now we've got our arms, and we are ready for the next little bit. See you soon. Bye-bye.